You got this. If I can do this, like when you were gone, you could do it.
This is Tuesday, March 18th. There are 127 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2025 and 10 days until WonderCon 2025. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
Is there music?
Is it not coming through?
Mm.
Music.
Oh, it's the off season, kids.
I can hear it. If you can't hear it, that's
Well,
not my problem.
it's a little your problem.
Good evening, everybody. I am your host, James Riley, and as usual, there are fun things happening on the first podcast of the year. And joining me, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, so what are we going to do here? What are we talking about? Let's see. Welcome to SDConCast. We'll take your comments and questions throughout the show. We're going to be covering all things WonderCon. If you have comments or questions, you can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. And of course, we'll be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment there. I mean, are we just going to get into it? What are we going to do here, Carrie? I mean, this is all
Yeah,
WonderCon all the
this
time.
is this is all WonderCon all the time. So we are here to talk about the programming schedule for the rest of the news. You can head to our site. We've been posting several updates, like we got Loungefly today. We got the first look at yesterday's exclusives today. Tomorrow we should get Toddland. And there's also been some news about another little convention that you may have heard of called San Diego Comic-Con. But today we are here to talk about WonderCon panels.
Yes. And what are we going to talk about? We're going to cover 3 rooms, North 200A, North 100B, and room 207. Those seems to be the 3 biggest rooms that they're using. No arena
Yes.
this year, which seems to be the way it goes.
And no North 200B.
And North 200B, which
To
only revealed
be
on Saturday last.
Saturday. Correct. That's exactly what I was about to say.
So,
So,
but the first floor in North 100, that one can be the same size as 200B. It's the way that they can modular those rooms, it can be anywhere from 300 people in one little corner to I think like 10,000 people or something like that if they
yeah.
wanted to pack everybody in the whole floor. So I guess we'll just get started. Let's start with I guess this is going to be considered the main programming, the big programming room for the convention, which is North 200A. And Carrie, why don't you kick it off with that one?
Yeah, so things are going to kick off at 2:30 p.m. because Friday opens up a little bit later. Uh, and the first panel is Comic-Con The Cruise, an immersive fan experience. And if you've been at all curious about the cruise, which I do think Comic-Con is like a little involved, but it's basically them licensing out their name to a cruise, like to host a convention on a cruise ship. But if you want to learn more about that experience and about the upcoming cruise coming up next year, this will be the place to learn that. And then at 4 o'clock, we have inside the McFarlane Toys multiverse, which is all about McFarlane Toys. And Todd McFarlane, who is also a special guest this year, will obviously be on that panel as well. Which makes sense because at 5:15 is his spotlight panel, where he will be talking all about his career across comics, toys, etc. And then at 6:30 p.m. is Collider is presenting Shudder's Clown in a Cornfield, which is an upcoming horror movie about Frendo the Killer Clown. So there's that to look forward to. And then at 7:45 p.m. is Adult Swim's Lazarus sneak peek screening. It's from the director of Cowboy Bebop, and it's his new series Lazarus that's heading to Adult Swim. You'll get to see the first 2 episodes ahead of its premiere, so that's kind of cool. And then at 9 p.m. is the advanced screening of the season 2 premiere episode of The Walking Dead Dead City, which I looked this up earlier, and I think the season 2 premieres on TV on like May 2nd, May 5th, somewhere in there.
That's
So you
fairly
get to
early.
see it. Yeah, you get to see it like more than a month in advance, which is pretty cool.
Usually these things that they do when they do these special premieres are like,
It's like a week.
it's next week, but it's like, no.
Or like it airs tomorrow, but you
Yeah,
can see it
tomorrow.
tonight. Yes. Yeah, but this is actually like quite early, so that's pretty cool. There won't be any cast, it's just a screening, but still it's pretty cool that you get to see it that early.
Yep. Are we expecting anything in this room to fill up and be exceptionally full and require any kind of wait?
I don't think so. I mean, to me, the coolest thing in that room is actually the screening of The Walking Dead, but because it's so late, it's at 9 o'clock. I just don't think anything's gonna fill up in this really.
Now,
You
Todd McFarlane is going to get a
very
crowd.
popular.
Very
Yes.
popular. The thing is, though, is that this is on Friday afternoon, and I'm not entirely sure. I think the WonderCon is more of a weekend convention where I
Yes.
don't think it really
Agreed.
fills up very much on Friday.
Agreed.
So if you want to see Todd McFarlane and you go to Comic Con normally and you have very little chance to see him, this will be a good chance because I don't know if the room will fill up.
Yeah.
I saw him be a guest on a panel last year. I think it was Bill Sienkiewicz's panel, possibly, where he was like a guest host for the beginning of the panel, and a lot of people knew he was going to be there, and the panel still didn't fill up, and that was for like Sienkiewicz and McFarlane, both were going to be
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So I
Now,
would
I think
say,
it might be a different story for another panel that he's
yeah, yeah,
on
yeah,
that we will talk about later, but for this, yeah.
yeah. So I think this one probably will be busy but not packed. So if you want to go to this, and I mean, he's doing his toys in the panel beforehand, so you might as well just watch both panels if you're a McFarlane fan. Just show up for the toy one and stay through the spotlight.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay,
Totally agreed.
let's
So I moved these room order numbers around. So now we're gonna go to a little bit of a smaller room, James.
207.
Hmm?
Okay, 207. We're going then now. This one seats about 550 to 750, depending on how they lay it out, and it starts at 1 p.m. And the first panel is Spider's Men: Multiversal Storytelling. And this is basically a discussion about how the multiverses of Spider-Man are all coming together with a group of people like James Thompson, Patrick A. Reed, and Peter Coogan, and how all of these different Peter Parkers are out there now. And then at 2 o'clock, we have a career in card games. Where Billy San Juan, a TCG writer, hosts a panel of experts to discuss how they've made a career out of playing, selling, creating, and streaming trading card games. So if TCGs are your thing, then this is probably a good panel for you. At 3 p.m., we have Spotlight on Dan Slott, playing the long game in a shared universe. And this is, of course, one of the special guests, Dan Slott, and this is just all about Dan Slott. And this is going to cover basically just a lot of his history in comics and writing for other companies like Marvel and DC and what it's like writing in a shared comic book universe. And then at 4 p.m., we have Yar, the Pirates of Star Wars. And so this is a fan panel, the Legal Geeks, who have run multiple panels over the years now, discussing 50 years of piracy from child endangerment and property rights and Skeleton Crew to plundering kyber crystals in Clone Wars. So this is the featuring Judge Carol Najera, Katrina Raitt, and Stephen Tolafield. So if the legal side of Star Wars is your thing, then this is for you. At 5 p.m., we have a crew far, far away. What's it like to work on a Disney Plus show? We have key droid technician and puppeteer Mike Senna, droid assistant and puppeteer Victor Franco, and puppeteers William Miyamoto and Robin White talking about working on Skeleton Crew and Kenobi. And then at 6 p.m., celebrating Tolkien Reading Day. And this is another of the Tolkien fan panels run by the OneRing.net with, let's see, who's going to be on there. From Clifford Broadway, Christy Fojcik, Josh Rubenstein, Nicole Roberts, and Rhonda Morgan. We're all going to be there discussing passages from books and things like that, and moderated by Kathy Udovich. We have at 7 p.m. Star Wars The Force Awakens 10th anniversary with editor Marianne Brandon. And this is a basically just it's almost like a spotlight of for Marianne because she's the only panelist, and she'll just be talking about editing challenges and stuff dealing with The Force Awakens and other J.J. Abrams movies. And then at 8 p.m. we have Dinosaurs in Pop Culture. That is Reisuka, the cosplaying paleontologist, shares her expertise on the realism of dinosaurs from stop motion B movies to CGI blockbusters. And then at 9 p.m., we have the same old song, musical remakes. And this is talking about, well, why musical remakes may be so popular these days. And it's with the hosts of the Nothing New, a remake podcast, Andrew Lindy and Justin Kuzan, and other panelists like Bethany Brinton and Joy Rugolano and Alex Catherine, among others. And that's it for the room for the day. Yeah, now, the room being mid-sized at 500 to 700, depending on, again, is there anything in here that looks like it's going to fill it up?
No, I do not think so. I
No.
think if you're interested in any of these, you're totally fine to just walk right in. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, there's a lot of really fun stuff in here. And if you find yourself with like an hour, like why not just go check out something,
Yeah. Especially if you're going to go because there's such a variety. I mean, it's anything from just like books to puppets, essentially. Anything that you want to do, there's something that is going to be in here. So that's about it.
Yeah. Okay, so on to North 100B, which there's quite the spread here on how many it could seat, anywhere from 500 to 1,700. So it could be a small room, it could be a decent sized room. I will say though, looking at what it has in it, like spread out over the weekend, I feel like this will be on the larger side rather than 500, but we don't know.
I'm thinking closer to 1,000.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so things kick off at 2 p.m. in this room with Giants for Steps, Glimmer of Greatness, and it's got Ron Diamond, who a lot of you guys know, who does the animation show of shows and has done for, I don't even know at this point, like 25 years. But it is basically him presenting restored student films by a bunch of really big names in animation. So that's pretty cool. And then at 3:30 is the greatest cartoons ever, which has Jerry Beck, another name that a lot of you should recognize. Showing Mighty Mouse, Popeye, and other vintage animated classics. And then at 4:45 p.m. is Legion M, crowdfunding at its finest. And it's basically Legion M talking about a lot of its upcoming projects, including some things that are already out, like My Dead Friend Zoe. And then there's actually, I've got a list. Let me pull it up because I have a list of who will be on that panel, and it's more than what the official schedule says. So the actors who we know will be at WonderCon include Karen Sony, who was in Deadpool, Veronica Dash, who was in Lucifer, Bernard White, who was in Big Sky, Danny Hamui, I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly, from Angel from Hell, and then Max Carver, who was in Teen Wolf and Desperate Housewives. So we've also got at 6 p.m. Toonstock Sweet 16, which has some really fun folks. It's got Matt Patterson, who we love, and DW Ferranti, and it's basically them talking about music in animation, especially some older animation. So they'll be talking about Batman, the Brave and the Bold, and more. And then Gary Marinu is moderating that, and he's always fun. And then things wrap up at 8 p.m. with Bikini Bottom Bash, Tom Kenny and the High Seas. And this sounds so fun. It is basically like a SpongeBob sing-along party. So it's got Tom Kenny and the High Seas, which is basically him and his band. They team up with Radioactive Chicken Heads for a live concert event. They will be joined by Luis Carino, the beloved Spanish voice of Bob Esponja. Again, I'm sure I'm not saying any of
SpongeBob,
this correctly.
the Spanish voice of SpongeBob.
Okay, the Spanish voice of SpongeBob and DJ Lance Rock from Yo Gabba Gabba. So they'll be singing and playing tunes, and it should just be a whole lot of fun.
That
And that's
sounds like
it.
that's possibly going to be the funnest thing at the convention all day.
Completely agreed.
Yeah, and
Completely
I
agreed.
and if the word spreads enough, I think that actually might get packed.
Yeah, I think so too. Because really, like, if you guys are looking for something fun to do on Friday night, like, to me, this is it.
Yeah. And if you're already
Yeah,
going to WonderCon, you don't have to buy tickets to anything. You just go to this.
exactly. Exactly. So I'm with you. For my money, like, this is the most fun thing on
So
Friday for sure.
if you're hearing the buzz and you see a lot of people talking about it at the convention throughout the day, if you're wandering around and you hear a lot of people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to that Bikini Bottom Bash thing tonight. Maybe get there a little early because there's a
Yeah.
nice big gap between the panels, so there'll be a dead space. So maybe just go up and check it out after you leave the convention at 7 and see if there's room. And hey, just chill out for a little bit until it starts.
Yep.
Go grab some
Yep.
food, bring it up, and eat some food.
Totally agreed. Okay, so let's do our dark horse picks for Friday and then let's answer some questions in the chat. Um, all right, James, do you want to go first?
Sure, I will do. I only have a couple. The first one is in room 211 at 1 p.m. and it's a time machine, baby. 900 1970s El Cortez SDCC photos from the Sheldorf archives. And that's exactly what it sounds like. Comic-Con founder Sheldorf used two 35mm cameras and a medium format film camera to shoot pictures of Comic-Con over its early years. And Greg Kudulian has digitized over 900 of them and is going to let people take a look at some of them. So you will be able to see some of the history of Comic Con in this panel. And then the other one, I would be remiss to not mention this one and talk about it because I'm going to be on it. And that is Mighty, a look back at Browncoat fandom. And it is at 9 p.m. in room 211. So basically, after you're partied out at the SpongeBob Bikini Bottom Bash, if it ends by 9, come on over and take a look and see what I'm yakking about the Browncoat early days and all of that kind of stuff.
So, is this your first panel?
Technically, no, because I was on the original, the first few Doctor Horrible screenings that we did at Comic Con
Okay.
back in the day. I was on
Okay.
those. Those weren't really panels, though.
Okay, I was about to say, really what my question is just you didn't get the nameplate, right? But you're gonna get the nameplate this time.
I am going to get a nameplate finally. After
That's, I
30
mean, yeah.
years of going to Comic Con, I will finally have a name placard.
That is all that matters. That is
Yep.
like the number one reason to do a panel.
But yes, it's basically a bunch of the current head of the California Browncoats is bringing a bunch of Browncoats from back in the day who got a bunch of the fandom stuff started and talk about all of the different things like the original message board, the backup bash, the Can't Stop the Serenity screenings, all of that kind of thing.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yep,
I'm excited for you.
that's
You
it.
will have to send us a photo of your placard.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so on my dark horse list is at 8:30 in room 300C is Taskmaster LA. So I don't know how many of you watch the British version of Taskmaster. My girlfriend made me watch a lot of it. It is really funny. But this is the local LA version, and basically it's just people doing tasks to earn like asinine points. But it's really fun and it promises like heavy audience involvement. And it should be a good time. And then we've also got at 8:30, also at 8:30, there's a lot at 8:30, in room 208, Bad Medicine, the best and worst of Michael Bay. So this is the doctors. So if you guys remember that really fun panel at Comic-Con last year with like the many ways that Sean Bean has died, like it's the same folks who do that. But this is them basically just discussing what Michael Bay gets right and wrong about medicine, and it should be pretty fun because they put on a good panel. And then I also wanted to mention, because I thought this sounded kind of cool,
I
at
was going to mention it,
6:30 p.m.
but you
At
took it.
6:30, yeah, you left me something. At 6:30 p.m. in room 300C is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie producer Bobby Herbeck discussing the pitfalls and delays in getting the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie made, the onslaught of critics' negative reviews, and how 7 films later there are more to come. So I just think if you're into those movies, I think this will probably be a fun conversation.
Yep. I agree. And now you said there are some questions we want to get to.
Yes. So we do have a couple of questions in the chat. So I saw somebody earlier ask how big the convention is. What's the capacity on Anaheim Convention Center, James?
I think it's close to 80,000, but typically for conventions, it's somewhere between 60 and 80,000.
Yeah, yeah. And we also have to consider like they're not using all of the space, like they're not using the arena. So I definitely think it's lower than that. My guess would be like 40,000, somewhere in there, but it is
Yeah,
definitely smaller than Comic-Con.
yeah, it's definitely smaller.
Yes. Okay, and then Damien asked, "Do we have any details of Hotel Apocalypse yet?" No, but I would expect soonish. So what always happens is Comic-Con gets through WonderCon first. Like that is their priority. And then after WonderCon ends, usually it's like a week or two later when details of Hotel Apocalypse come out. So I would expect news in like early to mid-April. That's normal timing. And then Rich Chapman asked, "Where do you find the list for celebs who are doing autographs?" So, if this is your first WonderCon, it is definitely not like a normal convention like you were probably used to. It's more like San Diego, where individual booths will bring people, but it's not like the convention is really bringing celebrities to sign. There are Comic Con does host some signings, and you can find those on Sked, which is wondercon2025.sked.com. And some of those will require a ticket draw. Some of those will require a lottery win in the online exclusives portal. And then there's other signings that you can just scroll up for. But those, for the most part, are not celebrities. It's more like authors and comics people, and there's special guests, things like that. So that's really how you do that. And then we do not compile a list of signings for WonderCon the way that we do for San Diego, but there also just are not as many. So you just kind of have to read our Wonder posts.
Yeah, whenever we do find them, we will post them on the Wonder Post. And a lot of comic artists will do signings. There are a lot of artists there who will do signings, and then there's always one of those management companies who will sometimes have a string of booths, and they will just bring a selection of celebrities, and then $7 a pop, which I don't think is there this year.
They're not.
They would normally bring a selection of celebrities as well to do some signings throughout the weekend. So yeah, you basically just have to catch them as we post them. There won't be a ton of them, but there will be some.
Yep. Yep. All right. So on to Saturday.
On to Saturday. All right. So we're going to kick it off in North 100B. This room again, probably around 1,000 people. We don't know. And it kicks off at 10 a.m. with Thrilljoy and the Golden Giveaway. And Thrilljoy hosts Brian Mariotti, founder and CEO, and Carissa Marston, director of marketing, are joined by panelists who will help share thrilling updates and spread joy through giveaways. And this isn't just any giveaway, it's Thrilljoy's biggest, wildest giveaway ever. Considering Thrilljoy hasn't been around for that long, I think it's not hard to be the biggest giveaway ever. But also, if you're unsure of the name, Brian Mariotti is the former CEO of Funko.
I think the giveaway will be good, but yes,
Most
your
likely.
point stands. Your point stands.
I mean, I had never even heard of Thrilljoy before this year. So I don't even know
This
when he
month.
founded it, right? I don't know when it was founded. It's interesting to me that both the big names of Funko are both at WonderCon, but neither of them are with
And in
Funko.
the same room. They're in the
Yeah.
same room. I think one of them opens and one of them closes out this room.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, at 11:15 is the 11th annual Women Rocking Hollywood panel, Surviving and Thriving in a Changing Landscape. And this is, as it mentions, it's the 11th one. This panel celebrates the showrunners, directors, and advocates creating great work despite the challenges, from fan favorite films, genre films, compelling stories on the small screen. Looks like we're going to have scheduled to appear writer, executive producer Aisha Carr, director Rosemary Rodriguez, producer, executive producer Dara Resnick, writer, executive producer Carla Ching, writer, executive producer Danielle Sanchez Witzel, and advocate Chandra Jackson, moderated by Leslie Combamel. So that is going on, and then at 12:30, we have the World of X-Men 92 and X-Men 97, and this is basically your, I guess now annual X-Men animated kind of panel that moderator Larry Houston hosts, who is the producer director for X-Men 92. And this is going to feature Eric and Julia Lewald, Mark Lewis, Cal Dodd, Isaac Robinson Smith, and Matthew Watterson, all doing a Q&A and talking about being on those shows. At 1:45, we have DC Superman with Mark Waid and Dan Slott. And that's two big comic names, two big comic writers talking about their work in Superman and talking about all things Superman. And then at 3, we have the Two Legends panel, and this is the one we were talking about earlier that is going to be packed, and that is because the two legends are Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane talking comics, careers, and friendship. That's all. That's all you really need to put for a description with those two in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could have literally just put like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, period.
Yeah. That'll be packed. At 4:15, we have Defiant, the Robert Small story in comics, a graphic novel and film. And this is the unbelievable life of American hero Robert Smalls, who has been an inspiring run of comics, a graphic novel, and soon a feature film from Legion M. And this is going to feature people like the comic graphic novelist and screenwriter Rob Edwards and producer Marvin Jones, talking about getting this movie made. Funmakers Unite is at 5:30, and that is the aforementioned other Funko person, the founder of Funko, Mike Becker, and Dave Beer will take you through the steps of what being a fun maker is all about. Very vague, but it promises to be fun. And that's it. So, I mean, basically the middle of the day is going to be jam-packed.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, I think quite a bit of this is going to be jam-packed. I'm with you. Like, I don't feel like I know how popular Thrill Joy is,
Yeah.
but if enough of those Funko people go, like, I think that could definitely be packed. I think the X-Men panel is always packed. I think Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, though, is going to be the most packed.
And there's, Mark Waid and Dan Slott talking Superman is not not a slacker of
No,
a panel either.
no.
So I mean, there will be some ebbs and flows in this room, but I think it's going to be more the highs than the lows. And so, like, if you want to go to the X-Men, you need to get there during the 11th annual Women Rocking Hollywood panel.
Yeah,
Maybe
and I would
even
say like early, like
like
don't
right after Thrill Joy clears out, head into the room
Yep.
maybe.
Yep, agreed.
And then same thing if you want to go to to the DC. I mean, that one may be a little easier, but I think a ton of people who want to go see Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane will not mind sitting through another comics panel, and will sit through the DC Superman panel. So if you want to see only Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane, I mean, I would be lining up during World of X-Men. Honestly, I would try and get in and sit through Superman to be able to see it. Now,
Yeah.
all that being said, WonderCon has always thrown us for some loops, and sometimes panels just don't have the attendance, and other ones do.
So here's the good news though, is that like the doors are always open during these panels. So if you walk by and you poke your head in and you're like, well, the room's like a quarter of the way full, like go do something else for a little bit. Like if it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, you can really easily see how full or not full the room is at WonderCon. But I'm with you. Like, I would err on the side of caution if heading to some of those panels is important to you, because I just think they're going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, I don't think either of the last two panels are necessarily going to be a problem getting into.
I don't either.
I mean, the Mike Becker one, you would think if they had announced there might be some kind of giveaway, maybe, but there hasn't been no announcement. So that one, I think it's just going to be a lot of the people who are fans of Mike Becker will be there, and others will find something else to do if there's no giveaway. They'll go down for signings or other things.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
it's my understanding, like, I don't think he's with Funko anymore. I
No,
think
he's
he's
not.
got he's got like his own company. So I don't think it has anything to do with Funko. And like you said, since there's no giveaway announced, like, I don't think it'll be near as popular. So let's talk North 200A, which again, we don't know the exact capacity. It could be anywhere from 500 to 1500. Our guess is probably somewhere in the middle there. Things kick off at 10:15 with working on the set, skeleton crew, and Kenobi. And this basically has a lot of the droid technicians and puppeteers talking
I think
about
it's
their
like
experience working.
the exact same description as the panel that I read from the previous day. So it's basically
I mean,
they're doing. I mean, you can expect different questions possibly, but it's the same people.
yeah, yeah. And then at 11:30, we have writing the DC Universe animated movies. And it's basically the folks who have been writing the DC animated movies for the last 18 years, including Tim Sheridan, Megan Fitzmartin, Jeremy Adams, Jim Krieg, Bernie Altbacker. So it's just them discussing that world. At 12:45 is a deep dive into Prime Video's Invincible. They have the co-showrunner and executive producer, as well as the art director and some other folks to discuss key storylines from season 3 of the series. And then at 2:30 is basically a conversation with Ronald D. Moore to look back at his history, which I mean, everybody knows Ronald D. Moore,
Yeah,
right? Like
right.
Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, For All Mankind, like surely we all know who that is. 3:15 is NBC's TV series The Hunting Party, and this one actually is bringing quite a bit of cast, including Melissa Roxburgh, Patrick, I hate saying names, Patrick Sabangui, Nick Weschler, and Josh McKenzie, as well as the showrunners, where they will give an exclusive sneak peek of the penultimate episode. And then at 4:30 p.m. is the upcoming horror film Until Dawn, and fans will get to see some exclusive sneak peek, and they promise cast and filmmakers, they don't specify which. And then the room clears out so that they can get everything ready for the masquerade at 8:30 p.m.
And now the masquerade
And
doesn't list anything about tickets. It just says line up. And of course,
it
if you get
does.
the best seat, you have to line up pretty early.
It does. But the Mistress of Ceremonies will be Ashley Eckstein, which is fun. And it is my understanding that it is not nearly as difficult to get into the WonderCon Masquerade as it is the San Diego version. Is that also your understanding?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you'll be waiting in line for a long time if you want to get there a little early, because the line is very long. But it is a big enough room where it will be able to fit, because I think they make sure that there's plenty of chairs. Even if,
Yeah.
like if you go in there early in the day and they haven't added all the chairs, I think they add more chairs for this event to make sure that they can host everyone that wants to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so do we think any of this is going to fill up? I don't.
Um, I mean, not really. I mean, honestly, I want to see the Ronald D. Moore panel, yeah, because it's Ronald D. Moore, and I
It's
want to
Bronte
hear him
Moore.
talk. And I think that if there's enough people who are fans of all the stuff and they're not too busy with other things, that I think that one may be a little busy, but I don't think it's gonna be like overly packed.
Impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. I think that's the biggest thing in the room other than the masquerade.
Right.
But I don't think you'll have too much trouble getting into any of these. So
And I'd like to point out, and this is this kind of, I guess this would be kind of like what WonderCon is these days. And it's the fact that we're getting the Writing the DC Universe animated films panel instead of a premiere of a DC Universe animated film,
it's
which we had gotten them premiering there for like a decade or so in a row, and now we don't. And I think that's kind of just the state of the convention right now, where it's just not attracting as much Hollywood presence as it used to. It's still a booming convention for artists and cosplayers, but the Hollywood panel side of it really has lessened.
the interesting thing to me is I went in 2022. Was that the first year back?
Yeah, I think so. Was it?
I went in 2022 and I went to what I would have expected to be like some decent sized panels, like uh Warner Brothers TV Superman, among others. And just like there was nobody in those panels. Like
The
we showed
first
up
year back
like
was weird.
it
Like the
was so
biggest
weird.
panel
Yes.
all weekend was Bob's Burgers, and the room was barely half full.
When I went to Superman, we showed up like I don't even know, like 5 minutes before, and we got like second row. Like it was like there was no one there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that played a part, if like Hollywood saw that year in particular and was like, why are we bringing the shows to this convention when like nobody is coming? And again, like I know it was 2022 and it was a weird year. I'm with you. Like I feel like I love WonderCon because I love Artist Alley, but as a panel person as well, like I'm with you. I feel like this convention has a little bit of an identity crisis at the moment.
Yeah.
And I feel bad saying that because I love WonderCon, but
All right. Next up, we're going to do room 207. And let's go. It starts at 10 a.m. with storyboarding, screams, and laughs. And this is basically a movie. I'm sorry, a conversation about movies like Zombieland, Army of Darkness, and all that, and how you get laughs with horror. And this is the Art Directors Guild, IATSE local 800 members and storyboard artists and stuff discussing all of these things. And then at 11 we have Your Vampire Story. And this is whether you're halfway done with your vampire saga or just jotting down ideas for an urban fantasy novel, this panel is for you. Industry veterans like Stephen Frank, Brandon Easton, Doug Leffler, and others are going to share their vast knowledge of storytelling and answer your writing questions. At noon, we have Ultima Comics kickstarting a distribution revolution. And that sounds just like what it is. It's about crowdfunding the company Ultima Comics and the process of running and fulfilling a successful campaign. At 1 p.m., we have Gremlins, the Wild Batch screening and Q&A. And this is Mogwai rule number 5. Never miss a Gremlins panel. The cast and producers of the show are here to, let's see, what are they going to do? They're going to screen a never-before-seen episode, followed by an in-depth discussion of season 2. And then at 2 p.m., we have the Folio Society, What Makes a Marvel Story Unforgettable. For 85 years, Marvel has built an unparalleled library of characters and stories, and what makes a Marvel story unforgettable. And this is going to be Patton Oswalt with Jordan Bloom talking about Marvel Comics storytelling. So I think that's pretty cool. They're just going to basically geek out about Marvel.
can I just say that when I first read this, I literally feel like Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom, who must be friends because they did Minor Threats together,
Yeah.
that they were just like, we just want to like have a panel and talk. Like, what can we talk about?
Right.
Like, that's what this
Oh,
feels like, and
let's just be
I love
nerds
it.
about Marvel Comics for an hour, and that's all it's going to be. And
I think that's great.
they're going to be like, they're going to go off on so many random tangents down like a deep dive of like, Brother Power the Geek or something like that. Just like, all right.
No, I'm with
Anyway,
you. I think that sounds really fun.
next up at 3 p.m. we have The Faithful Dickens Tale, the King of Kings animated movie. And this is a new animated movie coming up with a bunch of big voices in it.
We're not at WonderCon.
Who are not going to be there. It's a very long description. I am not going to read all of that, but
Okay,
basically, it's basically a new animated movie, faith-based animated movie that also stars Charles Dickens as a character running through doing something, and some of the producers, writers, and such will be there to discuss it.
it does. I do want to point out it does have Jim Cummings, who is bolded like he's going to be there. And if you don't know, that's like the voice of Winnie the Pooh, Tigger. He did some of like Scar and the Lion King. So
All the awesome voices. So
all the awesome voices. So he at least will be there. Yes.
at 4 p.m. we have Cartoon Voices, and this is as usual, Mark Evanier's collection of voice actors. This time it's going to be Kimberly Woods, Wally Wingert, Candy Milo, Daniel Ross, and a surprise or two. And then at 5 p.m., we have a spotlight on David Dastmalchian. And this is the actor you know and love from things like Dark Knight and Ant-Man and The Suicide Squad. But he is now a comic writer with 3 ongoing series. And that's mostly what he's probably going to want to talk about is his comics that are going on right now. At 6 p.m., we have The Science of Spider-Man. And this is 2 very knowledgeable people about Spider-Man comics, TJ Shevlin and Alonso Nunez. are going to talk with some scientists about the limits of biology and the science of Spider-Man. And then at 7 p.m., we have psychological intersection of dystopia and true crime. This panel makes me feel like I'm going to school. It sounds very nerdy and very smart. Those fans love good tragedy, whether in Shakespearean or modern day true crime or dystopian novels. And there's something about these stories, and we're going to have some discussions about them. Let's see what we're going to have here. Lots of doctors. Lots of doctors are going to be on this talking about things. Again, it's above my pay grade.
That's
At
right.
8 p.m., we have the science of science fiction, all your questions answered. And this is basically what is becoming the annual thing at most conventions. And this is the NASA panel with a bunch of people from NASA talking about science behind science fiction and if lightsabers actually could work, and will warp drives ever break the limits of physics, and things about AI and whatever you want to ask. All of that kind of stuff. It got real nerdy real fast at the end of that day.
It did. It did. So, do we think anything is going to fill up in this room? Which, again, this is a little bit of a smaller room. It seats like 550 to 750.
I mean, I think maybe does the Kremlin is the how popular is the Kremlins? Is that really popular? I don't know. I never really hear about it.
I don't either. I feel like
If people find out and like really want to listen to Patton Oswalt talk about Marvel for an hour, I think that panel may be pretty busy.
I think so too. I just think that with that title, I just don't know how well people are gonna like
How many are going
read.
to click in to see the description and see, oh wait, that's Patton
Yes.
Oswalt? I loved hearing Patton Oswalt with
Yes. Like if the
camera
title was
on.
like Patton Oswalt talks Marvel, like that's very different than
Yeah.
the Folio Society. So I just
Cartoon
don't know
voices
that I
will
think
probably
that's
be
gonna
pretty
be
good.
backed. Yes, that for sure will. That's always backed.
And
Cartoon voices, and I think the spotlight on David might be pretty
it's
popular too.
possible. It just depends. Like again, it's hard to judge based on the year where no one went to panels, when only like 30
Yeah,
people showed up for his panel. But it was also announced like that morning or late the night
yeah,
before, so almost no
yeah,
one knew about
yeah.
it. But
No,
yeah,
I'm with you. I think Cartoon Voices is the panel to beat here. If it was me and I wanted to see Cartoon Voices, like I would show up like at the start of the panel before,
and
because Cartoon Voices
check
is
it out,
busy.
see how busy it is. Maybe come back in half an hour if it's not if the room is not even half full. Just come back in half an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah,
You know,
yep.
go wander for a few minutes, take a break, go out onto the patio and just go to a food truck. Who knows? Do something. All right. What are your dark horse picks for today?
All right. So I'm gonna go in the opposite order here. Okay, so up first at 3 p.m. I have Comixology Originals, which is basically a bunch of exactly what it sounds like, what Comixology has upcoming. But one thing I wanted to mention is that actor Thomas Jane is actually on that panel, which is pretty cool. And then at 3 p.m., we have Tales from My Spinner Rack Live, which has Gary Sassman, who's been on this podcast several times. He is the former director of several different departments at Comic Con, including programming and publications. But it's him, as well as special guest Mark Evanier, discussing comics. And in this particular feature, they will be talking about the Fantastic Four, which is a little timely at the moment. But that is in room 209 at 3 p.m. And then the one that I am most excited about is The Legend of Taylor. And as a fan of Taylor Swift, this just sounds really fun and really nerdy. So, The Legend of Taylor is an actual play Dungeons and Dragons podcast based on the music, memes, and lore of Taylor Swift. So basically, they've just taken her lore and like put it into a Dungeons and Dragons game, and I think that sounds really fun. But that is at 4 p.m. in room 300A. And there will be friendship bracelets and giveaways and all kinds of fun stuff. Don't
Man,
shake your head at me.
it's hilarious.
Don't
You
shake
can
your
see
head
in
at
the
me.
description, it's like produced by D&D WGA Strike Day organizers. Like, yeah, they had something that they needed to do something. And so they're like, hey, let's see if we can make a D&D thing about Taylor Swift. And then they did.
And then they did, but look, I mean, like, look, it's being moderated by Jose Molina, who's
Yeah.
like a big TV writer. He did like Agent Carter and the Vampire Diaries and all
He did
kinds of
Fire. He
stuff.
did an
So
episode or two of Firefly back in the
he
day.
did. Yes, he did. So don't knock this.
I'm not knocking. I think it's great. It's hilarious. All right. So my pick is in room 300A at 10 a.m. It's the Only Murders in the Building Solve the Editor's Murder Mystery. Matt Ryan talks with Only Murders editors Shelley Westerman and Matthew Barbado on the art of editing Mabel, Charles, and Oliver's story. And they'll have some clips and behind the scenes tales and solve the mystery of how they crafted the sequences of comedy, drama, and murder. Um, and I think this is really cool because Only Murders is an awesome show, and more
Yep.
information about behind the scenes stuff is always more than welcome.
And if you are listening, Hulu, which you are not, but we would love if you would finally bring the show to San Diego.
Yeah,
Please.
come on, let's go.
Let's go.
I want Steve
Oh,
Martin at Comic Con.
me too. Me too. Oh no, what do we got to do here? Okay, so then we move on to our final day, which is Sunday. And I'm gonna do North 200A because it's real short. There's nothing in it. So moving
don't
right along.
don't go there and look around and be
Don't
like,
go
oh, it's
there.
empty. I can wait for the next panel. There's no one here.
No,
Don't do that.
no. Don't do that. Okay, so instead, we're going to kick things off with 100B at 10:45 a.m. with Watchers, the next step in collectible card games, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It is an upcoming card game. You can read about it in the description if you want, but they will be doing some giveaways, including some lucky fans in attendance will receive a free copy of the single player game, complete with a starter deck, dice, battle pad, and instructional manual. At 12 p.m. is Faithful, a Scottish fairy tale short film, which is it will be the USA premiere of this Scottish short film. They are bringing the some of the cast as well as the director and writer. And then at 1:15 is the Thrilling Adventure Our 20th anniversary. And if you were local at all to SoCal, you have probably heard of the Thrilling Adventure Hour. I am not local to SoCal, but even I went to a couple of these and they were really fun. Um, but basically, it's just them celebrating the 20th anniversary, and it's got the creators Ben Acker and Ben Blacker, as well as a whole bunch of the cast members like Craig Kakowski, Mark Gagliardo, Mark Evan Jackson, Hal Lubin, Annie Savage, Paula Tompkins, Janet Varney, and more. And this is it's a really fun time. And I think if I was there, I would for sure be heading to this panel. At 2:30 p.m. is Lumpia Deep Fried Universe, DJ Icy Ice and the Mix. So Kid Heroes Productions has a long-standing history with Comic-Con and WonderCon. They've been bringing their Lumpia movies to the convention now for several years, but now they are deep into their deep fried universe, which is basically their expanded universe that includes comics. So this is a panel talking about all the upcoming things in that world, including their newest comic book, The Ones and the Twos. They'll have some artists from the comics, they'll have some writers from the comics, and then there will also be a free print giveaway and special surprises. And then things close out for the day in this room at 3:45 p.m. with the annual Dr. Horrible Sing-Along blog, an interactive musical comedy, which is exactly what it sounds like. They play Dr. Horrible and you can sing along and have fun.
There you go. So, I mean, if everything was going right, the Thrilling Adventure Hour will be jam packed and standing room only because that is always hilarious. And a bunch of hilarious people are on that panel. But I don't know if anything's actually going to fill up in this room throughout the day, especially being on Sunday when most people are probably like going out and checking out the cosplay and shopping and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see.
We'll
Nothing else
see.
really in the room is going to fill anything up, right?
I don't think so, no. I
I don't
think
even
that's
remember,
for
I
sure
don't
the
even know
one.
how popular the Doctor Horrible things are anymore at the end of the show. I mean, I'm sure they get a decent crowd, but I don't think they fill up.
No, I don't think so either.
All right. So the only other room we're talking about is 207, and it kicks off at 10 a.m. with Love YA, Romancing Your Shelf. That's a good title. We could all use a little more romance on our shelves. So if you're looking for your next obsession, complete with many swoony toe curling moments, look no further than this program with authors Vanessa Lee, Sarah Phoebe Miller, C.B. Lee, and get ready to fall head over heels for their latest books. And at 11, we have two Marks Answer Questions. And if there's anything, and they really do mean anything, you want to know about comics, characters, people who created them, the business, anything at all, Mark Wade and Mark Evanier. If they don't know it, no one does, it says. So come, ask questions, get your questions answered. And then at noon, Mark sticks around for the Jack Kirby tribute. The former Kirby assistant, Mark Evanier, talks about Jack Kirby as well. Let's see, he's joined by two of Jack's family, Tracy and Jeremy Kirby, as well as John Morrow, Rand Hop, and let's see, Kirby family friend Dave Schwartz, and attorney Henry W. Holmes, talking about all things Jack Kirby. At 1 p.m., we have We Are All Superfans, which is the Welcome to the Superfan podcast, where the people who make comics talk about the things they love. And that's basically what it is, a bunch of people talking about comics or about the things that people who love comics love. At 2 p.m., we have Nerdy Arts and Crafts for all ages 20 to 80 and beyond. And this is some cosplayers and crafters talking about painting, sewing, crafting, reclaimed items, and more. At 3 p.m., we have The Science of Disneyland. And this includes, well, I mean, Disneyland is across the street. So we're going to talk about, well, what happens there. Let's see, we're talking about the advanced Spider-Man that swings across Avengers Campus, the robotics, the building of Galaxy's Edge. A bunch of panelists talking about all things science of Disney. And then at 4 p.m., we have the 25th anniversary of Emperor's New Groove. Director Mark Dindal, writer Dave Reynolds, character designer Joe Mosher, and head of story Steve Anderson, and story artist Jeff Ranjo will be on hand to talk about the long and winding development of one of Disney's most popular films, with behind-the-scenes stories and never-before-seen art to celebrate the 25 years of Emperor's New Groove. And this, to me, is probably the one panel all weekend I'm like dying to go to.
Are you a big Emperor's Groove fan?
I am a pretty big fan. Yeah. I mean, and
It's a
just the
good
fact of
movie.
how the movie came, the story of the movie coming into being is pretty incredible. So I would like to go and hear some other stories, because I've heard a little bit about it, and it's just crazy. How it was like an entirely different movie, like a year or two before it was released.
I don't think I know any of this. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. No, it was definitely. I mean, they had to completely redo this one, like they did. I think you might have heard they did that with Zootopia as well,
I did
where
know
like
that. Yeah.
Nick was supposed to be the star of the movie, but and then this one, like, I was even more of a change, I think. So anyway, I'm hoping to be there. If I can make it on Sunday, I will be at this panel. And
Well, I'm with you. I think that's definitely that and the Thrilling Adventure Hour to me are the panels to beat here on Sunday for sure. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything in there that's gonna fill up the room except for maybe the Emperor's New Groove panel. But it's also
I agree.
4 o'clock,
Yep.
an hour before the show closes. So I don't know. It's really hard to say on this one. But if you're a New Groove fan, I mean, you got to show up.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if like you want to get all those last minute sales. Go get your last minute sales at 3 o'clock. Come by here at 4 o'clock.
No, I
That's it.
agree. Okay, we're gonna do our dark horse picks. I'm gonna go first because I think yours makes more sense to end on. So for mine, at 11:30 a.m. in room 208 is a spotlight on our buddy Dan Wiesenmeyer. We've known Dan for many years through Comic-Con, but he's done a lot of really cool stuff throughout his life. He was a storyboarder on X-Men the Animated Series. He's worked with Mondo, Hasbro, Marvel, DC. I think he even used to be like Target's toy buyer. Like, he's a cool guy. So we love Dan. He's super nice. I would go check this out. But if you want to end your convention in a different way, James.
Well, every single convention they have it. It's talkback. And this time it's in room 213 AB at 3:30 to 4:30. Representatives from WonderCon, Comic-Con International will be present to listen to attendees' feedback about the event. What did we do right? What could be improved? We want to hear from you. If you had something go wrong or go right, it doesn't matter, and you have the time, go and tell them, because anything you can tell them, they will listen to, and they appreciate the feedback. So there you go. It's definitely a good thing to do if anything happened that you think should be corrected or that should be praised. Go talk
Yes.
to them.
Yes. Though maybe take their answers with a grain of salt. But yes. So that about does it for the WonderCon schedule. So what do we think, James,
What do I think? I
of
think
the
that
overall schedule?
it's it's not a light schedule. It's just light on the stuff that I think maybe a lot of people were expecting. But after a few years now, I think we should no longer be expecting that for WonderCon. I think fan panels and science panels, a smattering of Hollywood panels, lots of comic panels, um, just a lot of wide area panels, like lots of different things are going to be covered at WonderCon. And I think that the what you can see of the schedule is, for what it is, it's very good.
I agree. I think this is just not the convention that it was like 10 years ago. And so those of us who went 10 years ago remember that. But honestly, like leading up to this schedule, I feel like we got more studio stuff than I was even expecting because I mean, heading into the schedule announcement, like we knew nothing basically this year. And I mean, there's panels from AMC, HBO Max, like NBC. So there's definitely some good studio stuff, but yes, like the heart and soul of WonderCon really has never been the studio stuff the way that it is with San Diego. Like it's comics, it's artists, it's cosplayers, it's fans, it's all of that. So I'm with you. Like I think it's just that's what the schedule is.
And it's turned into, I don't know, it's not a, having spoken to some other people there, it's no longer like, for vendors, it's not really a let's rake in the money kind of a convention anymore. I think a lot of people going now are going to experience a convention, not to do like a lot of purchasing and all that kind of stuff. I think artists are really the ones who may uh, generate the most, uh, you know,
Yeah.
talking about
And
it.
their artist alley is phenomenal. Especially if you're into like I mean, I know when we say artist alley, a lot of people think like the professional comic artists, and there's some amazing ones there too. But a lot of it is more like fan artists and stuff like that, which I love. And from that perspective, like I think it's one of the best artist alleys we have anywhere. Period.
Yeah. No, it's really good. That's the thing. I mean, you can walk up and down that. You can spend half the day walking up and down the artist alley and not really stop very much, just
Yep.
looking at everything, first time through, and then coming back and like actually, you know, looking at things to purchase and whatnot. And there's such a wide variety there. Not
Yeah.
to say that there isn't a whole, other three-quarters of the convention with
No, totally.
vendors and everything, but it's definitely not the kind of floor you would expect at Comic-Con, where it's just bustling business everywhere. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
It's
definitely
not
turned
wall to
into,
wall exclusives and
yeah,
yeah.
it's definitely turned into the low key, uh, you know,
Which is nice.
yeah, it is.
Like,
It's very cool. Like, you can go on Saturday, and if you only can go on Saturday, that's usually enough. You can see a
mhm.
couple of panels you want to see. You can walk the show floor. You can go down through Artist Alley, pick up a few pieces, and call it a day. And you've had a successful day at a convention.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been to WonderCon several times, obviously not as much as you, but I mean, it's chill. Like sometimes that's what you want is like you just want to go buy some art, go eat some food at a food truck and like not sit in line for 5 hours, you know?
Walk into a
So
panel when it's
there's
starting and just sit and chill and listen
sit.
to a panel without
Yes.
having to like spend like, okay, how am I getting into this? For the 3-4 hour wait in a line I need to do. It's like, yeah, no, it's
Yes.
it's great.
No.
I
We
definitely
we love
appreciate it.
WonderCon, truly.
It's just not what it's like I said, it's not the WonderCon of a decade ago. It's just a completely different kind of convention. And if you go in expecting what it is now, you're going to have a great time.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so that
Let's
pretty much
yeah,
wraps
let
it
me
up.
mention this that John Reeves mentioned the Alien Civilizations panel on Sunday. Room 300C at 2:30 features Larry Niven and David Brin, two legendary authors. And since they are getting up in years, it may be their last chance to see them at a convention. So I actually did see that on the schedule. But yeah, knowing that I mean, who knows how often they'll show up at conventions. So maybe if you're a fan, go check it out. And that's it.
That's it. So let's talk a little bit about our WonderCon coverage. So several members of our team will be at the convention this year. We will be doing Prize Mule. We will be doing giveaways from Priscilla Wilson, NBC Universal, and possibly a couple of others. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. Those will be on Twitter. I know that we are posting on Blue Sky, but our plan is for convention on-site coverage to still just be Twitter. So if you want to follow Prize Mule, it is on Twitter. And then just keep an eye out on the blog for all your updates heading into WonderCon.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. What else do we have to talk about? I think that's really all we have to talk about. I mean, obviously, coming up soon. I mean, in 2 weeks we're going to be doing the wrap up for WonderCon. We'll me and you, and who knows, maybe we'll have someone else on who was there come in and talk about how the convention went, and any surprises, anything. We'll have our own talk back.
That's right. That's
Um,
right.
and that'll
And
be
then and
like the
then
Tuesday after, I think, like the first.
I think so.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Uh Yes, it is indeed the first. And then our regular season will start up in May, just like normal. So
Like,
we're not too far away here.
and it's
As we
I think it's
go
kind of
ahead.
funny. There's a sneak peek of our first episode on a panel at WonderCon,
I mean, we have not asked them officially, but yes.
right?
I don't think that will be too hard to get some yeses on that
Yes.
one. Yeah.
Let's get some yeses on that because I just willed it into existence.
Okay. All right. I'll get on that. Okay, well, I think that about does it. So let's do our wrap ups, guys.
Right. Thank you all for joining us. We will have a newsletter for Comic Con, so if you want to start getting those when we send them out later in the year, you can sign up on the site. Let me see, what else do we have? Carrie, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Carrie Dixon. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me everywhere online at Dan Regal, and you can check out the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, where I talk about all things Lorcana, the Disney trading card game. Thank you to Beth, our producer, for putting together this show, editing it, and getting it into your ears.
Yes, thank you, Beth. We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up in the blog, or you can search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We are also on Stitcher Radio. The link is in the show notes. Don't forget that we also have a Patreon. And if you are at all interested in our party for this year, I strongly recommend joining that sooner rather than later. And then don't forget to go see James on his panel at WonderCon.
Oh, hey, yeah. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for listening. And everybody, go
Oh, Sharma.
Sharma.